Hello! Fall is in the air here in Beulah, Colorado. Halloween is only a week away, but the stores are already starting to decorate for Christmas. So I thought we would continue with our Christmas gift ideas because now really is the time to make these. If you wait till mid-December, you probably won't get them done. And we're going to work on some bottle openers today. A very simple little project. I kind of teased about a bottle opener in the Blacksmith Challenge demo, so you might want to go back and watch that. But I didn't really give step-by-step instructions, so we'll do that today. There are lots of things that a blacksmith can make for Christmas gifts. They're all unique items, and most people will really treasure the time that you took to make them. This isn't like making a popcorn string for the Christmas tree or macaroni art or something like that that people say, well, thanks, that's great, but they don't really mean it. Or that ugly Christmas sweater. I think people really like the forged gifts. They're also good for the local craft fairs if you're doing local craft fairs this time of year. So, let's take a look at our bottle opener. So here's just a few bottle openers that I've made. There is no right or wrong other than this little spur here has to engage the bottle top, and this has to provide a point to lever on. I wish I had a bottle with a lid on it right now, but I'll see if I can find one when we're done. So something about like that works, and all these meet that requirement. This can be round. You can do anything you want with the shank. I'm going to show this basic style. This one is the one we did as part of the Blacksmith Challenge out of a piece of 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 3 inch long mild steel. But all these come out about the same. So, what are we going to start with? This is our beginning piece. I'm using 1/4 inch by 3/4 by 4 inches long. And the first thing we're going to do to this is we're going to punch a slot in it. And to do that, we're going to use a slot punch. So if you don't have a slot punch, this might be a good time to make one. You can refer back to the hammer eye punch and drift videos I did on how to make simple handheld blacksmithing tools. They're all done essentially the same. The hardening, the tempering is all the same for all these things. The only thing that's different is what do you do to the end. And by the time you're done with your blacksmithing career, you'll probably have 100 tools that look alike, but all have a slightly different end for different purposes. And slot punches are really useful. It's just a rounded end punch with straight sides. This one is 1/8 by 7/8. My guess is it was 1/8 by 1 when I first made it, but it's been cleaned up and dressed a few times. The only other tool we're going to need is a little ball end punch. And this is just made like just a punch you'd punch a hole with, except it's been rounded over, domed and smooth. And that's what we'll use to create this little spur right here. There are other tools that I will use and that I will show, but they are somewhat optional. For that matter, this ball end punch, you can make one out of mild steel if you're just making 1 or 2 of these. It won't last very long, but you could certainly do that. So, I've got some stock cut. Let's go put it in the forge and get it hot. Our first step is going to be to punch this slot, and we want it fairly symmetrical between the two sides and the end. We're going to work this into a round circle, and if we're too close to the end, it's going to get thin and it'll probably crack. So try to keep this back. It'd be better to be back a little too far than to be too close. It's real easy to chase this thing off the anvil, so if you have a hold fast, this is a good time to use it. Not absolutely critical. If it gets knocked off the anvil, you can pick it up. The first heat, I'm really just establishing the mark. I want to check it and make sure it's really right where I want it. Hold fast, could hold a little faster if you ask me, but it does the job. I'm a little bit off center here. I wish I wasn't, but we'll be able to fix that. I just want to punch far enough through from the first side to make sure I've got a nice mark on the back side. You can kind of see a little shadow, little shiny place there. And even though I'm off, I'm going to continue to punch right through the same punch line. Now you can do this over your hardy hole, or you can make a bolster that just fits this punch to punch through, or you can set your vise jaws right to that same width as your punch, and it makes a nice adjustable bolster. Okay, that's been punched through. So we have our punched hole, and this little bit here is all of the slug that came out of that. Our next task is to actually open this hole up a little bit so we can start rounding it. And I'm going to go ahead and just use my punch like a drift and drive it all the way through the hot slot punch there. It'd be better to have an actual drift made for this. A punch is not really a drift. I would make two tools, but I'm trying to keep the tooling as simple as possible for this project, so we're just going to use the tool that we already have. Before I start to drift this, I'm going to cool this side. This is the thinner side, so I'm going to cool that just a hair so that the drift wants to go through the hotter side and stretch it more. And because of that, I've lost a lot of heat. Now notice I'm running this around in circles in the hardy hole. That keeps everything supported pretty well. I'm going to take 2 heats because I cooled that. I've now got it pretty well stuck. That's one of the problems with using your punch as a drift. The punch is actually a little wider at this end than the shank is. And I don't like hammering on the punch end of the punch. It's not very hard. The thing's been heated up so many times that it's not going to hurt my hammer, but it's not good for the punch. So you can see that's much more even now, so I don't have to cool it again the next time. Another way you can make up for the thick spot, the unevenness, if you have a coal fire, you can put the thin side up so the fat side heats more. Okay, so now we have a round hole-ish, and it's an open hole. That's the big thing. And that is now open enough that I can get that over the horn of the anvil, and this is where we'll do most of our drawing out. I want to start by working these corners down. They're going to be the biggest problem. And then we want to kind of round this up. We're drawing it out, making it longer as we round it. You probably want to work from both sides and try not to let it mushroom over too bad. So I'm actually tipping this and trying to keep a little bit of a bevel on there from both sides so that I don't end up with a big raggedy spot I have to file off later. So that starts opening up. In the finished opener, all that really matters is that fits all the way across. So if you were just making a round opener and you weren't going to make it oval like I usually do, that's probably all you need to go for. In fact, it may be a little too big at this point. I don't want to get this too thick this way. I want to keep it under control. And we'll just keep working this until it's the size we want. Like I say, if it's going to just be round, or if you're not going to squish it too far oval, it's probably good enough already. But I want to make it about, 1.25 inches in diameter or so. I want to work on rounding it up. Well, this is still kind of square octagon round. I go from square in this section, or cross section, to octagon pretty much each heat. And now I'm going to start rounding it some. Sorry I keep stepping in front of the camera, but it's just the only place I've got to go. So that's probably pretty close to what we want. Now you can certainly round this up perfectly right on the horn of the anvil. Takes some skill, it's good practice, but you can also drift this if you want to make a big drift. You can even work a little bit with it on the drift if you've got some high spots. If you have low spots, don't work the low spots, because that'll just get them too thin. Another thing you could do, if you have a little anvil cone, you can work a little anvil cone and you can do that. Now that's all I'm going to do to this section here for now. I want to draw out the handle next. There's always a chance that I'm going to accidentally hit this, and if I don't do anything else, it's easy to round right back up and fix it. If I finish this end and then I hit it, I may not be able to fix it. So we're going to do the handle in next. What I want to do is I want to taper this in. I don't think it needs that thick of a neck. Again, that's an aesthetic decision. You can do whatever you'd like. But this is hard to do right here because my box jaw tongs can get in the way. If I work right at the hardy hole, I can drop that ring in the hardy hole and this becomes the edge of my anvil, and my tongs are not in my way. That gets pretty thick while you do that, and I don't want it any thicker than the 1/4 inch, so I'm going to work the flat as well. Now you want to leave this wide enough that there's still a fair amount of strength there. I don't think I'd go as narrow as a 1/4 inch square bar there. 1/4 by 3/8 maybe, 1/4 by 1/2 certainly is still good. So this is pretty close to what I want. I want to round up the edges. I want a nice comfortable bottle opener to hold on to. Rounding up the edges does upset the edge a little bit, so you need to go back and forth a little bit to keep everything thinned out. So that's pretty much all I want to do to this section of the handle. Now I'm going to turn it around and work that section. You notice I'm using a wide variety of tongs to work on this today. One good pair of 1/4 inch flat jaw tongs will do the whole thing, but you may have to readjust your grip every now and then. So I'm just using what seems to work best. You don't have to go out and buy 8 pairs of tongs just to make a bottle opener. Mostly we just want to put a nice graceful taper in this. I don't want square ends on mine. I like a little rounded corner. So I'll knock those corners off first. And then I'm going to thin it a little bit more at the handle so it stays nice and graceful, feels good in the hand. That's really all we have to do to it. Just make sure it's nice and smooth. I think a little filing will be in order, just to kind of clean up that handle in there. I like a hole in the end of the handle so you can either hang it on a nail or put it on a little lanyard. You can drill this, you can punch it, you can leave it out, it just doesn't matter. But I thought we'd punch it today. It's fast, relatively simple if you have a punch. The business end of this punch is just a hair under 1/4 of an inch, and I think that's just fine for this. Yep, but it didn't actually get that punched all the way through. There we go. While I'm working on the handle end, I'm going to put my touch mark on here. And I usually put it on the back, so I want to decide which end I think looks the best and which end perhaps doesn't look the best. And sign my work. Take one last time to straighten that out. Now this next step is optional. I'm going to put a little chiseled decoration in here. Don't cut all the way through. I'm going to put a little X. Maybe a little line on each end. Don't get too carried away with this. Easy to overdo it. And 4 little center punch marks. Person I first saw do this little element referred to it as hugs and kisses. And I got one of those off. But you don't have to do anything like that. And we'll show that better after it's completely done. I don't think you'll be able to see it too well right now. But that's where I'm going to leave this for now. We're going to let it cool. And then we're going to do a little bit of file work on it before we finish the end. Now then, just in case you were paying attention and noticed that it didn't progress the same, I've been working on 2 of them back and forth here. I think it's interesting this one started to flatten out. That's from where my tongs were and working this end. So it's already started to oval up for us, and this one didn't do that. Now the reason for letting this cool is to check for sharp edges, and this isn't too bad, but it could be just a little bit smoother and more comfortable to hold on to. So I'm going to put that ring end up in the vise, and I'm going to do a little filing. shouldn't be much to do here. You're just knocking off any sharp or rough spots. And it may need a little on the outside. Feels it all rough to you, fix it. Half round file will fit in here as well, small one, but it may not fit here since it's a little oval. This one seems to fit pretty well. You can do a little of this on a grinder. You could clean the inside of this up with a Dremel, I suppose, but I'd rather use a file. So that's pretty much all that needs. And then I would check this. Does this need to be filed? Most of that does not. Doesn't hurt. But what does need to be filed is right here. It's a little bit of a high spot, and I just don't like the little ears that I ended up with. So I just want to round those over. And make sure I didn't leave any sharp burrs as a result of doing that. And that leaves a much nicer thing to hold on to. Instead of our chiseled in decoration, we can just use the edge of our half round file and file in a couple of parallel lines. Usually look pretty good. There again, you can do as much of this as you really want to. Try not to get too carried away though, it might start to look bothersome. But there's lots of things you can do for file decoration. That could be a topic for an entire video, I think. So we're just going to put a couple little parallel lines in there. Just give it some ornamentation. Now this is the other one, so I still need to round this up. Now our final step is to create that little spur. I'm going to do that with this ball end punch, starting back, a 1/4 inch or so from the edge. We want to deepen that till it's pretty thin, and then we want to work right up to the edge and create a fairly sharp spur that'll grab the bottle top. Now this round one I kind of like just the way it is. I think I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to leave this round, but I like a little kick up in the opener. And we'll turn it around and shape the handle end. But the oval one, since I usually make them oval, this is usually all I do is just work it right there at the edge of the anvil. And very slowly. Boy, if you squish this, you may not get it straight again. So you want to keep that working in little increments until you're happy with the shape. Don't let it get too cold. That's about as cold as I would forge that. But we're ready to shape the handle on that one too. Now if you have a bottom swedge, you could swedge that and kind of dish this down into the swedge. Notice I'm bringing this up because I'm creating a little back curve in the handle now. Try not to be too aggressive doing this because you're going to smoosh up your touch mark or your file work you did work so hard to achieve. But that's really all that takes. And I would wire brush it really good. And I do both ends at this point. We're going to let it cool just a little bit, and then we're going to wax it. If you don't want the swedged look, you can just give it some shape right here at the horn of the anvil. And how much shape you want to give it is just up to you. Like I say, the only thing that matters is that spur engages the bottle cap. Everything else is just personal preference. Put a little wax on there while they're still hot enough to smoke. There are other formulas you could use for this. And someday we'll cover some of those mixes as well. And let's wipe off the excess. And let those cool. That's it for our two bottle openers. We ended up with one slightly oval, one round, little different decorative elements. It's another good little project, another great gift, good stocking stuffers for Christmas. But I realize this video will be seen long after Christmas is over. So don't feel like this is only a Christmas gift. They're great gifts any time of year for birthdays, give them to the groomsmen for the wedding, whatever you feel like. Make one for yourself, make some for your blacksmithing buddies. Just have fun making bottle openers. They're a lot of fun to make. Simple little project. In the meantime, give a thumbs up to the video, hit that subscribe button, get out to the shop, whether it's a bottle opener, a poker, tools, knives, whatever you want to make, go make something. And we will see you later. Bye.